So I start posting these videos, right? Almost like Saturday Night Live stuff.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden I get some messages from people saying, I thought you were sober. And I'm like, I'm like, what? They think I'm using? I'm not using. I'm mad. I'm like, how dare you? But then I was like, well, I haven't explained to anybody. So I stopped and I put together a big post saying, here it is. Here's what happened to me. Here's where I'm at now.
Mm-hmm.
And the overflow of people being like, we're proud of you. That's amazing. That's beautiful. That's awesome. Gave me the courage to be like, okay, I'm going to share more about everything that I did. And I'm going to do these ridiculous videos and people are going to be like, he's sober. So that's just him.
Jayme Minor is the trumpet man for the Calgary Flames. He's also a person in recovery with a bunch of great insights on how he got sober and how he stays sober, and you're gonna love him. But before we bring him in, what's up? My name's Dan, podcaster, keynote speaker, and advocate, and this is Hard Knocks Talks, your addictions podcast. If you want to foster productive conversations about substance use in your community, organization, or event, reach out to me at daniel@hardknockstalks.com to learn more about our public speaking and live on-stage podcast productions. Now, let's get into my conversation with Jayme Minor.
This is Hard Knocks Talks.
What's up, Jayme? How are you?
I am doing fantastic, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. So you're a trumpet player for the Calgary Flames, amongst other things, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Is that something you got into in recovery, or have you been a musician like all your life?
Pretty much all my life. I started playing the trumpet when I was in grade 7 and carried that all the way through junior high and high school. And then I eventually brought it to a Flames game as per my dad's instruction to give it a shot. And I kind of built up this persona of trumpet guy with the Saddle Dome, the fans and the staff. And I, created this little character, but it was something that was actually created with alcoholism, believe it or not.
Oh, good old
And
liquid courage.
exactly, man. It was pretty hard to roll into the Saddle Dome and play that horn in front of 20,000 people without a little bit of that. So
Yeah.
very, very booze filled. And I mean, a hockey game is booze filled too. But I did get back to it sober, and it was extremely scary.
Yeah.
Didn't know if I'd ever be able to do it again, but I managed to do it. And that's when the Flames actually reached out to me directly and said, something's different. And I said, oh, I'm clean. I went to rehab, and they said, we're willing to work with you now.
Had you approached them before asking if there was a
Oh
way?
yeah. Yeah. Like when I would go back to the games when I was, drinking and doing drugs, they reached out to me back then, but I was a mess, man. You didn't know what I was going to do.
Uh-huh.
And, I was pretty arrogant and talked back to the fans and, got kicked out a bunch of times. So
Uh-huh.
when those ones didn't work, and then now they were like, well, we're proud of you, this is awesome, and I get a VIP pass to any game that I want, parking spot, and I run around and play the trumpet sober. And all the fans know, all the staff know, and they were all just extremely, extremely proud of me, which was super uplifting.
Uh-huh. So that must be, and I hear that often, and I, in my own experiences also, I can reflect on that, thinking that I wouldn't be able to do things in recovery. I wouldn't be able to chase my dreams or have fun on a weekend. Like, I don't know how many weekends were ruined when I was in addiction because I couldn't find a bag of dope. I
Yeah.
would sit at home and sulk about it. But why don't you take us back here? For a few minutes and tell us how this got started for you. Was this something that became a problem right away in your life? Like, or were you born into this problem, or how did it all get started?
I would say it started back in junior high. Um, I was always a kid that was super high energy, loved attention, always kind of wanted more and to level things up. Like if it was like, oh, we're gonna go do this, I was like, well, how can we make it crazier?
Uh-huh.
And the first time I tried drugs was marijuana in junior high, and I instantly started abusing it. Like I was using it lots. I was using it during school
Mm-hmm.
and it got me in a lot of trouble. Back then it was illegal and I got caught smoking weed at school and I got suspended multiple times, almost kicked out of school, caused major stress on my family
Yeah.
cuz my mom and dad were teachers in the system that I went to school.
In the
Um
same school or no?
um Elementary, my mom was at the same school I went to, but not junior high and high school. But my parents were well known. Like my dad
Yeah.
was a principal, my mom was a teacher. So, you know, here we are, and there's their kid getting caught, and I just kept getting caught. Like I wouldn't stop.
Uh-huh.
Um, Experiment with alcohol too much in high school because I couldn't get away with it. My parents, like, I would get caught and then I was just grounded. So I kind of stayed away. But the first time I tried alcohol, I was in high school and same thing. Like I instantly wanted to abuse it.
Yeah.
Looking back, at the
Yeah.
time I didn't realize it. So I would say I kind of had this tendency to instantly abuse things. Um, didn't really run in my family. My parents weren't heavy drinkers. My sister wasn't. And it just slowly started as a party fun thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it just grew and grew and grew to a point that, I was guaranteed getting bombed every single weekend. And then once life got more stressful and I first experienced anxiety or depression, I instantly leaned to the drugs and the alcohol
Yeah.
because my brain was like, hey, this makes us feel better, Jayme. And it just progressed and progressed. And there was a big moment in my life where my best friend drowned.
Oh no.
And that threw me right over the edge. I was at a bad point then with really abusing everything, but still surviving. Once that happened, I just dove into it so heavy. And next thing I knew, I was waking up and drinking and lying and hiding it. And then everybody around my circle started to notice, like, man, you've got a problem here. This isn't just Jayme partying. This is Jayme in a messy state. And I I went for help. I went to AA, I went to Smart Recovery, I went
Uh-huh.
to counseling, I went to so many different forms of treatment, but they were all, where you went and then you left and went
Yeah,
back
yeah.
to your normal life.
Yeah.
And I was very apprehensive of going to a full recovery center. I was like, I'm not that bad. I don't need that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm super embarrassed. There's no way. Big ego, as in I don't need it.
Yeah.
And I eventually really hit rock bottom when I went on this camping trip and I was sober for almost a month.
Uh-huh.
And I go camping for the weekend, and all my friends know I'm staying sober, but they're all drinking. But I say it's fine. No idea of boundaries or whatever I should do to protect myself. I
Yeah.
make it through 2 days sober and I go back home and they text me and they're like, man, that was so much fun. Why don't you come back out again? And I'm like, you know what? I'll go back out again. On the way out, all the voices start going, that wasn't fun. You didn't enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
It was boring. You should have been funner, cooler, better, more amazing, and buy all the liquor, all the Mickeys, hide it everywhere, and think I'm secretly drinking around all my friends. And
Okay.
next thing you know, I wake up in the morning, full withdrawals. Like I was at that point when if I drank, it was withdrawals the next day.
DTs?
And oh, it was so bad. So I
Yeah.
woke up, hopped into my 700 horsepower Hellcat, said, I have to leave, everybody, made up an excuse, went to the liquor store. I was like, I just need to calm myself down, get through these withdrawals and get home. And next thing you know, I'm getting pulled over by the cops. And I was like, holy shit, this is it. I finally did it.
Yeah.
And got the DUI, got the car towed, took an Uber home, Uber to the liquor store because there's no way I'm dealing with what I just did.
Yeah.
And basically start to drink myself to death.
Yeah.
And a friend came over to my house to find me because no one could get a hold of me. And that was the first time he looked at me and he said, I think you need to go to rehab. And I said, yeah, I think I do.
Yeah.
And then I went and found a place to get into.
So all your earlier attempts, and I want to talk about the Hellcat because that sounds amazing. But I used to be a gearhead myself.
Okay.
But those previous attempts, now you said you tried counseling, you tried therapy, you tried this and that and the next thing.
Yeah.
Were those attempts because you wanted to maybe harness your drinking, like you maybe wanted to control it, or you maybe wanted to like please the people around you to say, look, I'm trying, or were these genuine attempts that failed?
It's a complete mix of it. There was one of the main reasons was please people around me.
Yeah.
And that was a big problem for the addictions is I was always like, I have to make everybody else happy. Like that's Jamie's main life goal. Make people happy, make people happy, make people laugh. So, I was going to AA meetings because my parents wanted me to. I was going to counseling because my business partner thought I should. And I tried all these things. Deep down, I knew I had a real big problem,
Uh-huh.
but I wasn't ready to do it at all. Looking back at any of those attempts, I wasn't ready. Like,
Uh-huh.
but they still played a part. Like, I listened and learned at every single one of those things that I did,
Yeah.
and I use them. I use a lot of the techniques. Like, if someone comes up to me and says, "I need to stop drinking, Jamie," I always say, like, let's go to an AA meeting because it's the
Hmm.
fastest and easiest thing you can go do almost right now because they're everywhere.
It's free.
And it's free. And then I say, hey, if that's not your thing, try smart recovery. Same ideas. You can get there free easily, but it's a very different way of viewing it.
Mm-hmm.
And the counseling is massively crucial. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's such a big piece to all this is getting that counseling and finding a person that you can root through your traumas and your mental health issues. So all of them
Yeah.
helped,
Yeah.
but it wasn't until you took me away from everything and I was in a single place for 2 months with nothing else that I could actually focus on myself.
Yeah.
you
So
know
now it sounds like you've had success in your life from early on. You mentioned business partner, so I mean, being an entrepreneur is that's no small task. Even for the
no.
side hustle, like that's like you are pouring your soul into something and exposing it to the world and hoping that it's meaningful. So tell us a little bit about that. Like, how did you get into business? Was it young?
Oh yeah. I um I was I went to school and tried business administration, didn't do well. Went to another school to become a music teacher for the trumpet playing, didn't do well. And I started working at a window and door company in the factory. Like I literally built the windows and doors.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up staying there and went through every single position all the way up to sales
Mm-hmm.
to eventually becoming a part owner of a window and door company. That's
Wow.
my main source of income. Like dedicated a ton of my efforts to it, but being in sales and the level of sales that I was doing and the energy that I had and how much of the sales process involved going out and taking customers out drinking,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
insane.
I
So, and it was glorified, man. Like I'd roll into the office still drunk
Yeah.
and I got a pat on the back and said, way to close the deal.
Attaboy, yeah. I had a business coach on a few weeks ago that said the same thing, and he's an entrepreneur, a longtime entrepreneur, longtime business coach, in now in recovery for I believe I forget how long, a good number of years, And he said the same thing. Like when you close a deal, and when you get to a certain level, now you're flying down to wherever to meet with the CEO, and guaranteed like 90% of the time, those meetings and those whatever festivities, events, whatever they are, they're often soaked with alcohol. So it's just so entrenched in that part of society. So I
Oh
hear
yeah,
what you're saying.
and the stress,
Yeah,
like how much I was selling, how much work I was doing,
yeah,
coupled with I'd party all weekend. You know, I was using drugs throughout the day to stay awake,
yeah.
and then I was using alcohol to calm the anxiety, and I could work from home and do these emails and these phone calls,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just such a vicious cycle, man. But I
Mm-hmm.
was still performing. Like I performed for so long, like, I was one of the top salesmen. I was
Mm-hmm.
killing it. I was making good money. So here you have this guy from a view, you go, he's doing well,
Yeah.
right? He just likes to party. Whatever. He's happy. But it was just slowly getting so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I eventually had a complete mental breakdown, went on stress leave, and came back after that. And the company I was with at the time, I never admitted to them how bad all the problems were, and it was kind of like a delicate push out the door where I had to leave, took like a payout, and it was pretty hard on me. I didn't realize how hard it was on me, and that's when I really fell apart.
Yeah.
Um, and you have to walk away from a job that you've been at for 16 years, and now you don't have a job, but you've got all this money coming in. What the hell? If you're an alcoholic, you're just gonna sit there and drink.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I did. And when I went back to the current company I'm at as a partner, that first year was just a shit show. I was sober, relapse, and my
Mm-hmm.
business partner, and he's one of my best friends too, just tried his best to help me. He was just trying to keep me on track and hope it wouldn't happen again. And it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't until I went to rehab and then I came back. And after coming back to that job sober,
Yeah.
in the first 2 years, we quadrupled our business.
Wow. I'm not
And
surprised to hear that, but like, good for you, man. That's amazing.
yeah, and it just goes to show,
Yeah.
right? And that's because I was at a whole different level.
Yeah.
I I was so real, so honest, took care of myself, set boundaries, and I was able to just handle so much more. Like I had stress, but it wasn't toxic stress. It was manageable stress. It was problem solution orientated stress, and it turned into an amazing amount of success. So I always tell a lot of business people, I'm like, if you want to be the best business person or salesperson out there,
Mm-hmm.
sobriety is the way to go.
Yeah.
That gives you the biggest advantage in the playing field ever.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us then. I mean, you sort of gave us the quick version there, but when you came out of rehab, was there, like, for me personally, it felt like I stepped out of a time warp. Like things got really dark for me. Like I used for 23 years, but they got really dark for me in the last 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And when I found that first little bit of recovery, it like I said, it felt like I stepped out of a time warp because all my friends had gotten older and they had careers and they had this and they had that, and here's me just crawling out of a dumpster. So, what was it like for you? Like the first, I would say, like year coming out of rehab, like on the inside, like did you go to meetings? Did you engage in any sort of things differently? Like what did that look like?
Um, it was very patient. And I use that as the key word of I knew I had to take things extremely slowly. So I was lucky. I still owned my house.
Mm-hmm.
I still had a decent amount of money saved up, and I had a business that I was part of to go back to.
Mm.
So with work, I basically told my business partner, I was like, I'm going to go back to this, but I got to see how much I can handle because my job's a trigger.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's like, that's not a good thing, right?
Yeah.
So my first week back to work, I could handle 15 to 30 minutes of it a day. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I'd get overwhelmed, anxious. I might even cry, but my business partner just supported the shit out of it because he knew.
Mm-hmm.
So setting that boundary of this is how slow I need to come back, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Number two, with the career, I said, I don't want to know how much money I'm making at all. I don't want to know how many sales I'm closing. I don't want to know any numbers. I just want this amount every 2 weeks. At the end of the year, if it was more, we'll talk about it then. So I set myself up in a very protected state. Okay.
Yeah.
With my friends and my family, I had to talk to all of them, and I did it very patiently, one at a time, and I set all my boundaries with them separately.
Mm.
So my mom, I said, "Hey mom, you know, this is how it's going to go. I'm not going to drink again. I'm not going to use drugs again, but I'm sure you're going to worry and think that I might." And I said, "I can't hear those thoughts from you."
Mm.
And she was like, "Okay," because I'm like, that's gonna trigger me. So if you have those thoughts, you got to talk to someone else.
I think that's a great boundary.
Yeah. And number two is she used to like to stop over at my house unannounced. In the past, that was, let's catch him. He's probably passed out in his own puke. I got to take him to the hospital again.
Yeah.
So I said, if you want to come over to my house, you have to ask now. No
Uh-huh.
problem. Mom says, no problem. Love you. Got it. And she quit drinking too.
Oh, did you drink together in the past? Like, is this something that
Oh
was
yeah.
like maybe a part of
Not
your journey?
a little bit. Like my family, we all drank together. Um, you know, it wasn't like bad, but it was kind of like your normal family, like, get together and celebrations. You might have a couple of drinks. I always did more. But my mom, in support of me, quit. So I
Yeah.
mean, I was so lucky to have that, her accept all the boundaries and quit drinking. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it'll make me cry right now just thinking about it. She's so beautiful, and
Yeah.
and she's very I'm similar to her. When
Yeah.
people meet my mom, they say there's the energy. Because she's just so hyper, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so basically I did that with everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
My sister, my dad, all my friends. Patiently took my time. So I've got work covered. I've got my friends and family covered. They
Yeah.
all know my boundaries. They all know what I need. And then I'm still taking care of myself. Okay. I didn't go anywhere for the first year where I would see alcohol.
Yeah. I was gonna
Not a
ask.
chance.
I was gonna ask that next. Was you would 15 to 30 minutes of work per day, and I'm like thinking, well, what do you do with the rest of your day? Because when I was early in
Yeah.
recovery, like I needed to stay busy, man. So what did that look like for you?
Yeah. Yeah. So the gym. I mean, I've worked out all my life, but I could never get a set program or get to the levels I wanted because I was always relapsing and fucking up.
Mm-hmm.
So the gym was a huge part. I'd go every day for an hour, hour and a half. Later in the afternoon, I would maybe go for a walk or a run.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was also busy setting these boundaries. So I was going to meet friends. I was going to hang out with my family. I was also building a lot of Lego.
Oh yeah.
Um, I have a thing. It's called emergency Lego. So I have Lego always in the house. That if I ever got really bored or anxious, Lego. I
M-
learned that. I learned that in rehab.
my 10-year-old son does that exact thing. He's got more
Yeah.
Lego than he can shake a stick at, and just in having you say that just now, that triggered like a realization in me, like, holy cow, my son does that same thing. So
Yeah.
that's
It's
awesome.
beautiful, man. It's like painting, a puzzle, reading a book. I had all these amazing tools from my time in recovery of if I get bored or I get anxious,
Uh-huh.
I know I have to do something, and I had lots. So I had Lego, I had books, I had puzzles, I had painting, I had reading, and then I started getting back into music.
Mm.
So I used to make music right here, and I made lots of songs. I recorded, produced them all on my own. I never released anything, but my music in the past was about drugs, about alcohol, about getting high. They were super raunchy. They
Uh-huh.
were I basically made music that I thought people would like. Okay?
What
I
style?
never made any um I would say I'm a mix of like Macklemore, Justin Bieber, Kid Leroy, hip hop, pop, mostly pop music. Um I'm very animated, man. Like my songs are just super high energy, but the stuff in the past was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like beyond ridiculous, okay? Like
Mm-hmm.
one of my songs was called Lyrics More Addictive Than Cocaine. Okay?
Boy,
So,
that's some bravado. Bold of you to
yeah.
assume.
Well, exactly. So
Yeah.
I started getting back into music and I get into my studio, I put on a beat, I try to freestyle, and I'm a really good freestyler.
Uh-huh.
But I never freestyled without drugs and alcohol. So I go to freestyle and I cry.
Mm.
Cry, just fucking cry my eyes out because I'm like, they're not there. The thought's not there. I'm nervous. And my brain's going, you used to be better when you were high. So I stop. I go
Mm-hmm.
back in the studio the next day. I do it 10 minutes longer, 10 minutes longer, and I start making some songs again. But then I go, this is really hard. This is really hard to do by myself. What did I learn in rehab? Put your ego at the door, ask for help. So I went
Mm-hmm.
and asked for help. And I found producers and writers and people that helped me, and I was able to make songs that actually had real meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wrote a song called Letters, and it's about all the letters I wrote to everyone that I hurt in my life while I was in recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote that song in 30 minutes, and it's fucking beautiful, man, because it was so pure.
Yeah.
And so now I have this music that I have this side passion, this dream coming to life. And I have released music now. I throw sober music festivals. I perform and I got music videos and everything that I always wanted back in my addiction that I was too scared to do because I thought I would fail.
Yeah.
So, like that's where some real beautiful things came up. But I did it all slowly, patiently, man. Because
Mm.
I knew if I dove into everything full energy, I would burn out, right?
Mm.
That's one of my biggest struggles with sobriety is staying here.
Oh man,
'Cause I could easily do that.
yeah, and then everything falls by the wayside. It's that compulsion to feel better. It doesn't go away. We just got to learn to point it in a good direction. But let's take a quick break here. Let me shout out today's sponsor.
Sure.
Fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, known as FASD, is a developmental disorder that can impact anyone. It affects the daily lives of over 4% of Canadians, but with support and services, individuals with FASD can thrive. Learn more at saskfasdnetwork.ca or find their link in the show notes below. If you're interested in fostering productive conversations about substance use in your community, organization, or event, reach out to me at Daniel at hardknockstalks, KNOX.com to learn more about our public speaking and live podcast production opportunities. If you're interested in checking out another Canadian mental health podcaster, there is also a link for that in the show notes below. To make contact or learn more about today's sponsors, to check out our new merch, or if you want to show us some love and buy us a coffee, all of those links are also in the show notes below. So how long did it take you from the time you started like making the music and getting into this newfound sobriety before you sort of left that safety shell that you were explaining earlier, where you had all these very strong boundaries in place and you were pretty much sticking to yourself?
I'm gonna say a year and a half to 2 years,
Yeah.
and it was still slow. It was still slow. I just did everything very slowly. Um, like for example, when I started posting stuff online, um, the first thing I did is my producing team was like, "You need to get on social media more."
Uh,
So I start posting videos, and these are just random goofy things because I'm a goofy guy, man.
Random
Like
and
I got
goofy guy.
costumes, and I just do fun stuff. So I start
Mm-hmm.
posting these videos, right? And it's like, for example, me working out in a giant costume.
Mm-hmm.
And me pretending to do commercials for shampoo. Like just almost like Saturday Night Live stuff.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden I get some messages from people saying, "I thought you were sober."
Uh-oh.
And I'm like, I'm like, "What? They think I'm using? I'm not using. I'm mad. I'm fucking mad, man." I'm like, "How dare you?" But then I was like, "Well, I haven't explained to anybody." So I stopped and I put together a big post saying, "Here it is. Here's what happened to me. Here's where I'm at now."
Mm-hmm.
And the overflow of people being like, "We're proud of you. That's amazing. That's beautiful. That's awesome." Gave me the courage to be like, "Okay, I'm going to share more about everything that I did. And I'm going to do these ridiculous videos, and people are going to be like, he's sober. So that's just him." So
Well, and because
then
you
I,
like doing them, right? I mean, like if that's where your passion lies, if you like making people laugh, then I mean,
oh, and it was beautiful, man. When I came to the realization that I still loved to dress the way I dress, do the fun things that I love to do, and have this kid-like energy,
mm-hmm,
sober, I was
mm-hmm,
like, that is me. It wasn't the drugs and alcohol. They might have taken it to an outrageous level, but I
yeah,
still love that shit. So I was like, oh my God, like it was like this level up of sober fun. And that really like clicked something in my head where I'm like, I need to share that with the world. I got to share sober fun. I wrote a song called Sober Fun.
uh-huh,
I performed it at Oktoberfest. I I set up outings and events and different sober things, and I always let people know, like if someone says, "Hey, I want to go out and try and be sober," I'm like, "I'll go with you. Let's go."
hmm.
And I'm like, because that helps so much. Having one person with you who
Oh,
isn't
100%.
drinking as well,
Yeah.
and you have fun. And I also share a lot of like deeper parts of it where I'm like, hey, so you're gonna go out. Here's what you're gonna do. First things first. If you're letting people know you're going, tell them, by the way, I may cancel last minute, just so you know.
Yeah.
Set that up. Set that boundary that I might not want to come. I don't know how I'm gonna feel an hour before this event. So you're safe.
Yeah.
Then I ask myself in the mirror, hey, Jayme, do you really want to go to this thing? And then I answer, yeah, you do. 100%. I go.
Mm-hmm.
And then I set myself up with a potential escape plan if I need it. And then I check in half an hour in to see if I'm actually thoroughly enjoying it. And if I am at that point, I stay and I enjoy it. But I'll last like 2 hours, man.
Yeah.
2 hours at like an event, socializing and all these things. By that time, I'm kind of done because I still have a heavy subconscious of you're not enough, you're not loud enough, you're not
Uh-huh.
crazy enough, you were funnier, you were crazier. It's still there. It's a very smaller voice, but it
Mm-hmm.
still kicks my ass every time, bro. Like that's
Yeah.
when I go to the Flames game, the next day I'm sober hungover is what I like to
Oh,
call it.
oh my God, I could go off about that, man. Because like I do, like my work takes me to conferences and seminars and different things where I'm like on, like I'll have a trade show booth with Hard Knocks and I'm promoting and I'm talking to people and people want to know. So I say the same thing over and over and over again. I'm having all of these conversations and I'm on. Like I'm
Yep.
on and I'm in the conversations and I'm trying to build the brand. And when things get quiet after something like that, then the voices come. Oh my God, I can't believe I said that one thing to that one person. I hope they didn't get insulted. Or oh my God, like I can't believe that whatever you and I can see on by the look on your face, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, the sober hangover, like that is a thing. Like I come to a place actually where there are times where I have to be careful how happy I get.
Yep.
Can you relate?
Oh, bro, you got to stay grounded.
Yeah. Yeah, cuz like
It's
I'll go off into the stratosphere. Like if I have a good
oh,
conversation or find some level of success or something I've been working towards comes to fruition, like getting pre-approved for a mortgage to buy a house. Like
woo!
boom, woo! And then the next day it's like, oh, So it's like you have to be careful how
Yeah.
good things get sometimes.
Oh, 100%, man. And and I try and actively keep myself grounded at all times.
Yeah.
And it I I mastered it in recovery. So basically what I did is I was about a month into recovery and I'm settled there. I'm doing really well. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to dwell on the past too much and I don't want to look too far in the future. I'm like, I need to stay in the present moment.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, for 1 week, I'm going to stay in the present moment 24 fucking hours a day. And I stole a phrase from Star Wars and I would say this out loud in my mind. I'm one with the Force and the Force is with me. And
Mhm.
I would say that anytime my mind went to the past or the future, okay?
Mhm.
And I'm not kidding you, like a solid week of this.
Yeah.
So now, if I start to do that, I can literally say that phrase and I'm here. I'm in the moment and I can literally stay there. Like I literally just said it in my head while I was talking to you.
Uh-huh.
And dude, it's crazy how much that stuff works. You should see my golf game now. Go up to the drive and I
Yeah.
go, I'm one with the Force. The Force is with me. Kaboom.
Wow.
Because I block because golf's a great example of life.
Yeah.
Okay. You shoot the best shot of your life and then you duff it.
Yeah. Yeah. You're only good as
It's
your
ruined.
last shot.
Yeah. So, staying grounded and staying in that present moment is key for my anxiety. I just, because like people ask me, like you seem to stay calm, like you have this high energy, but how do you manage running a company, being
Yeah.
part of another company,
Yeah.
and then you're part of all these other organizations? You've
Yeah.
got a girlfriend, you've got this, and I'm like, it's because I stay grounded. I
Yeah.
stay grounded and I deal with what's in front of me and I stay there as much as I can. And I get out of it. I have nights and times where it's too overwhelming and I let it take over. I
Yeah.
say, "Okay, we're going to worry about this. Let's do it." I don't run away from I don't run away from my emotions.
Let's do it.
You have to, man. Like
No, I know. It's
my
funny. It's like, okay, we're gonna feel like shit. Let's go.
yeah, well, it cuz you know this, man. Anytime you're running away from a feeling, even if you're not using drugs and alcohol,
Yeah.
is a danger zone for a guy like me.
Yeah.
And my counselor really found that out for me because
Yeah.
I was sitting there telling her how proud I was with all my coping mechanisms and all my tools,
Yeah.
like I'm some professor at it.
Yeah.
And
Gear
she's
down,
like,
Big Rig.
dude, you're running away from all your emotions like you used to with alcohol.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck. And she's like, you got to sit in that shit. So now if I get really sad about something, I go, all right, bro, let's get fucking sad. Let's cry.
Yeah.
Or if I get really excited, I'm like, Kate, you got a little time to run around and scream, feel it.
Yeah.
Um, but, and that's a tough one, man. Like sometimes you don't want to feel these things, but I'll feel them. And once I kind of added that into everything, I was just like, wow, I'm even more grounded. I'm even
Uh-huh.
more in the moment. So I always like to say like you can find all your own unique ways to do things. And I like to share the way my unique way is. Like, I love that I'm one with the force is with me, because people laugh at that. They go like, that's dope. That's Star Wars, man. Cool. You're a Jedi.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that worked for me. So I say, maybe you find your own phrase.
Uh-huh.
What's the thing that you say in your mind? Like, what would you say?
Yeah, yeah. And if you put me on the spot like that, and I'm thinking, like, what would I say? You know, and I don't really have any catchphrases or slogans or anything, but like what I've been learning about in the last year is becoming the observer. There's plenty of parts inside of us, right? But one of them is the experiencer, and one is the observer. And quite often I let the experiencer take over, and then I'm 5 years in the future, and I'm an expert at time traveling now because I can go into the past and into the future, and I'm not present at all, and I suffer, and the people around me suffer, because I get to this place where I'm so lost in it that, like, if my kid misbehaves, then I'm like extra angry because I'm already worried about the past or the future or something like that. So cool, man. Where can people find you? Where can people find your music?
You just look my name up, and it's Jayme. Last name's Minor, Minor.
Mm-hmm.
Songs out on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, and you'd look up the same thing on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
If you hit up one of those, you can watch those reels I'm making about the mental health and sobriety interviews.
Mm-hmm.
They're really cool, man. Like, I'm loving that, because I was kind of just sitting there, and it was a Bell Let's Talk commercial,
Mm.
and I was
Yeah.
like, well, who are you talking to? You guys got millions of dollars. Show me some real stuff. And I was
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna go out and talk myself. I'm gonna go out and just talk to people, one person at a time.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Like, I interviewed this one girl, and she literally says, mental health is so important, and I know that counseling is what's going to do it, but I've just been too scared to go.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the interview, I said, here's a place, I'm part of it. Oh, if you're comfortable, I'm like, I'll pay for 4 sessions. And she went,
Mm-hmm.
and she's messaged me, and she said, this has made such a difference in my life. She's like, you randomly coming up and talking to me and helping me get into the door with this is making my life better. And I was like, okay, this is it. This is it. You know, a commercial from Bell. I love
So
what
it
they're doing.
worked,
Keep
is what
trying
you're
it.
saying. Bell Let's
It
Talk. It
worked.
worked. It worked.
Yeah, they got me.
They
They
got
got
you
me
going
because
out. Yeah.
I went out and did it. So
Like on a
yeah,
resentment towards them.
yeah, kind of. Like, it was just more like, I was like, no, I gotta do this. Like, I'm that type of guy where I'm like, someone's like, oh well, I have an idea, blah blah. I'm like, let's go do it.
Yeah.
Let's just do it.
Yeah.
You know, and that was like the sober music festival. I was like, let's just do it. And I was like, how the hell am I gonna pull this off? Nobody knows me as a performer. Nobody knows me as a speaker.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I'm not serving alcohol. Well,
Yeah.
let's see how it goes. And, I got 500 people the first year and raised 30 grand, and I did it. Like,
Wow.
that was the biggest thing, was I did it. This is probably like the first time through this podcast, you're probably terrified,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you did it.
I always have this and it may seem insignificant, but it's very significant to me. I remember I was early in recovery, and I've always had this thing of rejection from women, right? So it's always like made me too afraid to like approach new women or someone that I was interested in. And I think I was like a year and a half in, or maybe 2 years into recovery, and I was at a convention, and there was this one woman there, and she's just, I want to go talk to her, right? And I was so scared, and finally I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do it. And I went and I did it, and she rejected me, and I didn't even care. I did not care. I was so proud of myself that I mustered the courage to walk up to this woman, and she didn't reject me like harshly or anything like that. It was very nice, Yeah. But I think maybe you can relate to that. It's not about winning or losing. It's fine, or it's not about like, where is the win in that? You know, did you lose
Yeah.
because she said no, or did you win because you found the courage to do it?
100% you won, man. You
Yeah,
tried.
I agree.
And
I'm still proud of that moment.
oh, totally, man. And
Yeah.
I had the same thing, man. Women were completely terrifying for me in the sober world.
Hmm.
I I I said no girls for a year, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I meant zero. Like the only girls I talked to were family or a guaranteed friend. I didn't talk to anybody that was a potential whatever.
Yeah.
And that ended up trickling into almost 2 years
Yeah.
before I actually went out on some dates. And then I eventually met my current girlfriend at the gym. And it was that same thing, man. Like she's there working out. She's gorgeous.
Yeah. Oh, you
And
don't
she
want to
looks like
bother
she's like,
her or whatever.
and she's intense. Like she works out hardcore. So I was like, she doesn't want me to. And I was like, whatever. So I go up to her and I say, see you here all the time. My name's Jayme. And I'm actually just getting the word out because I want to let people know about this sober music festival I'm throwing.
Yeah.
And her eyes light up and she smiles and she's all about it. And
Is she in
she
recovery too?
comes to it. No,
Huh. Okay.
but this is cool, bro.
Uh-huh.
So she comes to the sober music festival. We start dating after that. She quit drinking. She hasn't had a drink in over a year.
Huh. Interesting.
So, and she also came into the realization that she was like, I was actually drinking too much. I didn't really realize it until I stopped.
Yeah.
And she said, I'm so proud of what you've done and what you do. And I believe in it so much. I just can't imagine ever drinking. So that was just so beautiful. And her energy's the same as mine. It's pretty
Uh-huh.
intense.
Awesome. So, is there anything you'd like to say before we turn you loose?
I just want to thank you for having me. Kudos to you, man. Like doing stuff like this is so important. I know how much energy it takes and the work that you put into it. So thank you. Like,
Oh.
you're one of the main reasons that there more people are speaking and sharing and getting the help they need, because we need to recover out loud for those who still suffer in silence, right?
Beautiful.
Because I know it helps, man. I know it helps. And yeah, I'm just blessed to be here, man. Appreciate you so much.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm sure we'll see you around on social media land, and maybe our paths will cross someday. But for now, take care, my friend.
All right, you too.
Okay, if you got something out of that, please click that like button at the bottom of the screen. If you're not yet subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. We go live all the time. We've got tons and tons of episodes for you to catch up on. There's lots of content. That's all I've got for you this week. Thanks for watching. Take care, my friends.
Say, this is Hard Knocks Talks.